everyone saying it. I'm going to bring in Dr. Anahita Dua, the surgeon and the founder and chair of Healthcare for Action. She's been on. She's a friend of the show. She's been on. She's brilliant, and we're lucky to have her. Thank you very much. So look, and thank you for joining us, and I hope you're doing okay. So look, I don't take it lightly when you're talking about what's going on with someone, but I mean, clearly to me, I have ears and I have eyes and I can see it. And many people are saying the same thing. Something is up. And I'm gonna show you some of the proof, some of the evidence of what he's been tweeting, what he's been saying, and also what others are saying. What do you say to that when Robert Garcia, a very respected lawmaker, says something is clearly wrong with him?
Well, he's not the only one who's saying that. There's a number of doctors actually and some Nobel laureates that actually came out and made a call to say something isn't right. We as physicians are taught, and it is correct, that you are not to diagnose somebody unless you actually have examined them and spoken with them. However, like you just said, we all have eyes, we all have ears, and we all take care of this type of patient. I'm a vascular surgeon, you mentioned, which means my patient population is older. They are people with dementia sometimes. And so there's some very basic things that are obvious: the disinhibition, the perseverance on things. And a lot of that behavior can actually come across as kind of mean or angry, but actually what it is disinhibition. The frontal lobe of the brain, which is in control of like how you think and kind of like acts like a filtration system that says, whoa, you shouldn't say that. It sort of goes away. It's actual like brain damage, to be, basic. And what we are seeing in the way Trump is behaving very much fits with that type of behavior.
Can you please go, and you said disinhibition, is that what you called it?
Right.
Can you be more specific about what that means? Quite frankly, I believe it's the first time I've ever heard that term, and maybe it's the same for folks who are in the audience.
Yes, of course. So when you're inhibited, it basically means like you think about something and you control your mouth. So for example, imagine you're in a meeting with a bunch of executives and they say something silly and you just want to say, shut up, you're an idiot. But your brain says, whoa, don't say that. Maybe you can say something like, hey, that's challenging. Let's have a conversation. People who are disinhibited will go right to kind of the base core lizard brain function, which is where they just say and do whatever they feel at that moment, almost like an animal. And so when you have that, that's actually a very clear sign sometimes of dementia or issues with the brain. People who have brain damage also can behave that way, where they actually lose their ability to filter what they're saying. And some of the things that Trump is tweeting, Trump is saying, is pretty obvious that he's quite disinhibited, because we do have Trump from like 20, 30 years ago. We have a comparator. And he was always a little different, but this is definitely not normal. And then on top of all of that, you also have a situation where he's clearly not sleeping, not eating properly, functioning at a level that someone his age potentially cannot function at. And that's affecting all of these behaviors that he has. In fact, it seems like it's making them more prevalent. So if he's already baseline disinhibited, now you add 5 days of no sleep, this person is just going to do and say whatever they want. And that's very dangerous when you have the nuclear codes.
Wow. I want to play something and I want to get your response to it. This is Representative Ilhan Omar.
With expectations quickly declining for Donald Trump's trip to China, how big of a factor is his cognitive decline at this point?
Well, I mean, we've been seeing it for a really long time. It doesn't seem like he fully understands what he's talking about, doesn't have a good grasp of the reality that he's created a mess, not just in this country, but around the world.
He said that closing the Strait of Hormuz was a genius move. What are your constituents telling you?
Oh, they think it is not a genius move. If you're just reading 70% of farmers saying that they cannot afford enough fertilizers. There is an economic impact, not just on the price of gas, but on everything else. My constituents are feeling it, Minnesotans are feeling it, and I know people across this country are feeling it as well.
So look, people around the country, not just lawmakers, but are feeling and hearing very similar things.
That's exactly right. Unfortunately, a number of people from different areas are feeling it, including clearly the Republicans that are standing behind him when he's giving these rants and these talks. And, we should really be telling them, because they're the ones that are closest in that circle, that they're the ones that are going to have to enact that 25th Amendment and do something to stop what's going on here. I mean, this is bad for everybody. I've said it before on your show. I'll say it again. It's not just about us that, who are reaping these bad situations from this person. It's also the fact that Trump himself is being put in a position at kind of the end stages of his life where he doesn't know what's going on, and he's also being put into these very stressful and unnecessary situations, and he just needs to move over and let someone younger who doesn't have these cognitive and executive functional issues take over.
Do you think the folks who make excuses for him, do you think they know? Before you answer that, let me play this. There's a Republican lawmaker I think that we can play. I think, is it Magaziner? Is he the one?
And how big of a factor is his cognitive decline now that he's negotiating on behalf of the United States and China?
It's dangerous. It's always been dangerous. He's trying to sell advanced chips to China. He, isn't taking our national security seriously. He is unstable.
Okay, so he's not against him, but everyone says that there's an issue, or most people say there's an issue. But the Republicans are saying, I don't think there's anything wrong with him. I've never seen any cognitive decline. He's not falling asleep. He's blinking. All the things.
They are saying that. You know why? Because they're scared. He's in a very serious position of power, and we've seen him go after political opponents. I mean, even some of the stuff that he's doing, writing about Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, putting these sorts of kind of odd memes and things out there indicate that, again, he's not stable. And I think that was a perfect way to put it. And when you have that instability and you have power, people are frightened. If JD Vance tomorrow goes up to Marco Rubio and says, look, man, we got to save the country. Let's enact the 25th Amendment where, we can have a discussion with the rest of the group to take him out of this political power place. And, I'll go up for presidency and, Rubio, you'll be the vice president. Let's do it. And it doesn't work. What happens to these people? They must be thinking, do I end up in jail? Do I end up on death row? Who knows? We don't know. That's how dictatorships work, right? So yeah. I think the baseline fear is happening in conjunction with the bystander effect. There's a lot of Republicans that are in this echo chamber with this person. Some of the stuff that he's saying when he's disinhibited, like I gave you that example of calling your boss an idiot. Well, a lot of people are like, yeah, good. He is an idiot. And they want to hear people talk like that, but they know that it's the wrong thing to do. And so a lot of times Trump will say things that other people will agree with. And they like the way he's, quote, delivering it. But actually, overall, this is bad for the country because naturally, when you start to behave like that in a meeting with China or in a meeting with Iran, you're going to end up in a situation where the country is exactly like was just said, unstable and unsafe.
How functional can you be? And can you be a functional person and have inhibition? Inhibition. Yeah, disinhibition.
No. I mean, so there are people that, have varying levels of disinhibition, but like when it's a medical issue, which is what it appears to be right now, then no, you're not functional. And the reason you're not functional is because your executive decision-making, so your higher level thinking is not working, and you're unable to take a bunch of data, analyze it in your mind, and make the right decision. And so what ends up happening is you become very emotional. You become emotionally charged because the lizard brain part of your body, which is the part that, first evolved in humans, that part is purely about like hunger, sleep, sex, and emotions. And so when you start to go down into that kind of level, that's why I used the word animal earlier on. I wasn't using it in a condescending way. I was saying, animals behave like that, and that disinhibited sort of, what do I want right now? And they will do whatever they need to do to get what they need because they don't have the moral kind of framework over the top of it, the functional framework to analyze things and make decisions. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now with him because he's so disinhibited and because his executive function is gone.
Have you or do you have colleagues who treat this specifically? And do they have any recommendations or do they share any knowledge or ideas with you on what they think might be happening?
The person that, or the people that would really take care of this type of disease process are neurologists. So the neurologist would see a patient like him and really, do a deep dive into what is wrong. There are many different types of dementia. There are many different reasons why people present with these types of symptoms. It's not just simply, the brain's not working and it's this particular area or there's this med and a lot of times it's a cognitive functional decline over time. And what we really do for patients like that, because there's no, quick fix, there's no med that's going to make it go away. What we do is we keep them safe. right? We keep them out of positions where they make major decisions, up to and including things like turning the stove on, because they may not turn it off, and that might turn on into a big house fire. I mean, basic things. And that's the way it's supposed to be in families where you have a grandparent or something that has this dementia. You basically protect them from themselves. You do not make them the president of the United States.
I hope they're listening to you, Dr. Dua, and I appreciate your expertise. And I see you're in your scrubs. You're working hard. And we have to tell you, we had Dr. Dua schedule the other day, and someone called and said, she's got to go into surgery, emergency surgery. So she's working hard for you in the operating room, in the halls of the hospital and medical facilities, and here on the Don Lemon Show. Thank you, Dr. Anahita Dua. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.